Okay, hello again. Welcome to day 21. Donald Trump, you are fired. um, yes. And this has been an interesting and a beautiful week. I hope you feel the same way. Yesterday, especially, Thursday, Thor's Day. It's where the name Thursday comes from. You may not know, actually. You can look it up. Thor's Day. Was a particularly beautiful day. If you, I think maybe it might be healthy for us in times like this to spend a little time thinking, what happened to me this today or this week, or at least that was beautiful. Excuse me. What happened that was beautiful? We have so many things happen that are awful. And I had a really beautiful day. I don't remember all of my dreams, but I had a dream about somebody I love very much, and then there's all these serendipitous encounters, and I was talking about serendipity, or as I like to say, synchromancy. And I was able, the person I was talking to, I was able to be like see, like that's kind of wild that just happened. So, anyway, balance is key. One of my teachers said to me in college, balance is key for you, he used to say. And I haven't seen him in many years. I don't even know if he's still around. I mean, he should be, hopefully. He wasn't an old man, but his name was Don. And I've never forgotten that. Balance is difficult in life, especially when the world is so imbalanced, but I think our ability to help others is curtailed by our inability to balance and help ourselves. So that's why I say, even if all we can do right now is go to work and keep our heads down, let's try to take a little better care of ourselves, and it will help in our interactions with others. Anyway, so today I thought we would do something fun. It is the Sabbath, technically, and I thought I would read to you, and I would read you something very beautiful and awesome that comes from the roots of American history, when our country was like barely a generation old. And oh, this is my new friend, by the way. This is a tiger's paw begonia, and I think it's so cool. I like plants that look like they could have existed like 65 million years ago, like when there were dinosaurs around. I imagine a plant that looked like this maybe, but was huge, and how cool that would have been. And maybe it was like poisonous, or maybe something. Maybe it would have eaten you. These actually are not good for animals. You wouldn't want. Most animals would stay away, but I read that these are slightly toxic for animals. So if you like plants and you get a begonia, most animals, it's so irritating to their mouths, makes them like salivate and drool, and it would like be uncomfortable for them, that they wouldn't keep eating it. So it's not like it's like seriously toxic, but if an animal wasn't paying attention and just like bit into it and chewed a whole bunch of it, it wouldn't be good. So if you have animals and you like plants, just be mindful that begonias are not super great for animals. Anyway, this thing is so cool. It's smaller than my other begonias, but I was happy about that today. Anyway, I want to read to you from Leaves of Grass. And I would love to read Song of Myself, but in my copy it's 102 pages. I have this small copy here, you see, and it's got it's kind of like a little workbook. It's got like blank pages after each portion, and it's like for sort of like a little study guide or something. I don't know. It was the one that I found. I don't remember when I got it, but many years ago, many, at least 10 years ago, I think now. If you don't know, it was originally published in 1855, so we're talking before the Civil War here. And I didn't realize this until I was glancing at it tonight, but it was originally just these 12 poems, but he continued to work on it throughout his life, and it wound up being 383 poems, which is like, whoa. But I think the most appropriate thing, and if he were alive, I think he would be happy to have me do this. I really do, since it's so old, it's in the public domain. There's no copyright issues. But the preface of this is about the United States. And as we have this madman who I've been saying this week on social media, like, guys, try to take a healthy half step back here and realize that the further down the dark rabbit hole he goes, this of just trying to glorify himself and renaming Penn Station now, yeah, good luck with that. I'm sure New York's gonna have some things to say about that idea. I mean, my family's from New York, and I don't like that I was born in the South, and I especially don't like that I was attacked there 2 years ago, and I went back just for dressing a little differently. And I went to school in New York, and lived there for many years. So, easy answer if you ask me where I'm from, I usually just say I'm from Brooklyn. I mean, like, I'm like a Southern Yankee, so like whatever. Like, and I barely remember my life in the South anyway. It's so traumatic for me. I blocked a lot of it out. So, but I want to read this to you, the preface, and it's very old, and I scanned through it because I was worried there might be like some word or something that could be nowadays taken as like a slur or something. I didn't want that without qualifying it, explaining it, because they used to refer to African American people as Negro, and that was not, my understanding is that was not intended to be insulting back then. And then we evolved in like the mid 20th century calling people whites. And I remember being on the phone with a relative even when Obama was running for president, and hearing this relative, I won't say who it was, but this relative saying, well, Obama's got the blacks, and me being on the phone even back then being like that's not okay. They don't like being called that, but I didn't say anything. But like nowadays, no, that's not okay. Like, it's got to be sensitive to people's preferences for the way they're referred to, and it's such a sensitive, touchy subject now. With good reason, of course. But anyway, one thing, he does use the word God a couple of times, and I'm not a fan of that word. I've said before, mainly just because we are still primitive in the sense that we're killing in the name of still, and we evolved out of polytheism into monotheism, but then we're still like, oh, my name is better than your name, so I'm going to hurt you. And thousands of years of this, we still haven't figured it out. It's all just one facet on the same crystal of understanding. It's like natural that we would develop different understanding based on our geographic separation and the development of cultures independently from each other. And this is a strength in human society. It's not a weakness. Diversity is a strength. So we should be respectful of other cultures, respectful of other races, and that's what the American idea originally is about. And I think what Walt Whitman touches on that. But anyway, I don't like the word God. We fundamentally, first and foremost, use it as an expletive in our culture. Oh my God, I can't believe they said that, stuff like that. So it's really just something, it's divisive. It does not bring people together. And to me, it's just my personal thing. I think it's disrespectful. It's the ultimate expression of vanity to try to squeeze all of this amazing, infinite everything into like a monosyllable, and then we're going to capitalize it as if that's a sign of respect. No, it's, to me, it's a sign of the ultimate sign of vanity. And the problem is there's so many people today who do not understand that that is not the name of something. So I've said this before, when I introduce loaded spiritual language into a discourse, or T.S. Eliot said, we purify the dialect of the tribe. This is a little tribe we have here going on between us. I try to explain these things so we don't have misunderstandings. When I say that, and I'm quoting Walt Whitman, I am referring to everything, everywhere, all at once. Not the film, even though you should see that film, it's fantastic. But I am not naming anything. It is not the name of something when I say that. It is referring to every name, every sound, every thought you have ever had, everything you have ever seen, everything you have ever imagined is all contained within that. That's those three letters. And I prefer not to use that word. I prefer to use something else, like I will say the Almighty, or I'll say the Maker from the Dune universe is a great way of putting it. Or another great way of putting it, speaking of Thor, All Fathers, or All Mothers, or All Maker. That's a great way of putting it. The point is figure out your own way of describing it. If you don't like that word, throw it away. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. What vibrations or what scribbles, what symbols we put on paper don't matter at all. In my opinion, my humble opinion, it does not matter. You can call it whatchamacallit if you want. Call us whatchamacallit. And it is rightful when we understand well enough, and we have done enough spiritual work, we come to understand this, that when our minds are quiet enough, when we were not around to think thoughts like this or that or other, there was still consciousness. And so when we really understand that, and understand how much we will never understand, it is possible, it is, I think, almost rightful that we naturally begin to speak from a perspective of we, the royal we. I mean, really, because what this is here is not separate from anything. This is scientifically verifiable. My skin is not a coastline. I zoom in here, look at it under a microscope, and eventually like an electron microscope, and we get down smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And there's not like a point where there's like a line where it says the end of Elliot and the beginning of the air. It actually gets to the point where it's all just going like wah 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 wah. It's just a dance of energy. And anyway, most of the volume of our cells and our particles is like empty space, is non-voluminous space. They say that like the relative distance between the nucleus of an atom and the electrons, even the lowest level electrons, is like the relative distance between like the sun and Saturn. Now the sun is colossal, ridiculously huge, sphere. More perfect sphere than we can even create, actually. Read that once. Even ball bearings they make in space, they make them in zero gravity because it's like perfect bubbles, more or less. But even those are not even anything compared to how perfect a sphere this is, the sun. But think about that. I mean, the distance between sun and Saturn is so much just space in there. So what is going on here if not like a dance of energy? And when we're quiet enough and we do enough work to just think with our thoughts, and eventually our thoughts, we start having periods of time in meditation where there's like moments that pass and there is no thought, and there's just consciousness. And it suddenly becomes clear in a way that gravity is clear to you right now, feeling pulled towards the earth, that, oh, this is how it is. And then it's like, oh, and I think it's natural a person begins to understand we. So whatever you want to call the royal us, go right ahead. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get struck down for naming us differently, because there is no name that you can possibly give to all of this that is not part of our name. You know, it's funny to think about, like, I talked about Lord of the Rings again last night. It's funny to think about, like, the Ent Moot, the meeting of the Ents. And it takes them, like, hours to just get through, like, saying hello. Because they're like, there's these ancient tree-like creatures, and they're just, you know, like a tree or like a plant. Like, this didn't grow overnight. And this thing will eventually get very big, and most of them will flower, actually, begonias. But this thing is not in a rush. It's chilling. It's just chilling here. It's doing its thing, but it will eventually continue. If you had a time-lapse photograph, it would look like this. Well, very similarly, like the universe, a creative explosion, you know, faster than you can imagine, but it was like, you know, a flower blooming sped up really, really, really fast. It wasn't a destructive explosion, so I don't like to say big bang, I say big bloom. Anyway, kind of went off on that a little bit, but it's a sensitive subject with me, because I really don't like violence, and I don't like war, and I want that to end in this world in my lifetime. So anyway, I'm going to say the word God a couple of times, even though I don't like it. I think maybe 3 or 4 times. But anyway, I don't want this to be too long. And we are already at 17 minutes. Crap. So let me get going here. I mean, this might end up being an hour again, but it's Leaves of Grass. So this is the preface of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, or Walter Whitman. And it says in the beginning, Brooklyn, New York, 1855, represent. So I scanned through this, see if there are any words I'm unfamiliar with. I think there was only one, because I haven't read this in quite a while, but this is what the country is about. This is what we come from. And I think it's really important that this is heard right now. So I hope that you enjoy this, or maybe, you know, maybe you just put this on. Maybe put this on in the morning when you're making your coffee or something. Or for me, decaf coffee from now on, definitely. But listen to this, guys. This is awesome. Okay, this is the preface for Leaves of Grass. Oh, I'm gonna have a little sip of my lemon ginger turmeric tea here that I had in the fridge. It's a yogi tea. I added the lemon ginger, but the turmeric is, yeah, what did it say today? Love is the highest of all virtues. Amen. All right, without further ado, here we go. America does not repel the past or what it has produced under its forms, or amid other politics or the idea of castes or the old religions, accepts the lesson with calmness, is not so impatient as has been supposed that the slough still sticks to opinions and matters and literature, while the life which served its requirements has passed into the new life of the new forms, perceives that the corpse is slowly born from the eating and sleeping rooms of the house, perceives that it waits a little while in the door, that it was fittest for its days, that its action has descended to the stalwart and well-shaped heir who approaches, and that he shall be fittest for his days. The Americans of all nations at any time upon the earth have probably the fullest poetical nature. The United States themselves are essentially the greatest poem. In the history of the earth, hitherto the largest and most stirring appear tame and orderly to their ampler largeness and stir. Here at last is something in the doings of man that corresponds with the broadcast doings of the day and night. Here is not merely a nation, but a teeming nation of nations. Here is action untied from strings necessarily blind to particulars and details magnificently moving in vast masses. Here is the hospitality which forever indicates heroes. Here are the ruffs and beards and space and ruggedness and nonchalance that the soul loves. Here the performance disdaining the trivial unapproached in the tremendous audacity of its crowds and groupings, and the push of its perspective spreads with crampless and flowing breadth and showers its prolific and splendid extravagance. One sees it must indeed own the riches of the summer and winter, and need never be bankrupt while corn grows from the ground, or the orchards drop apples, or the bays contain fish, or men beget children upon women. Other states indicate themselves in their deputies, but the genius of the United States is not best or most in its executives or legislatures, nor in its ambassadors or authors or colleges or churches or parlors, nor even in its newspapers or inventors, but always most in the common people. Their manners, speech, dress, friendships, the freshness and candor of their physiognomy, the picturesque looseness of their carriage, their deathless attachment to freedom, their aversion to anything indecorous or soft or mean, the practical acknowledgement of the citizens of one state by the citizens of all other states, the fierceness of their roused resentment, their curiosity and welcome of novelty, their self-esteem and wonderful sympathy, their susceptibility to a slight, the air they have of persons who never knew how it felt to stand in the presence of superiors, the fluency of their speech, their delight in music, the sure symptom of manly tenderness and native elegance of soul, their good temper and open-handedness, the terrible significance of their elections, the president's taking off his hat to them, not they to him. These two are unrhymed poetry. It awaits the gigantic and generous treatment worthy of it. The largeness of nature of the nation were monstrous without a corresponding largeness and generosity of the spirit of the citizen. Not nature, nor swarming states, nor streets and steamships, nor prosperous business, nor farms, nor capital, nor learning may suffice for the ideal of man, nor suffice the poet. No reminiscences may suffice either. A live nation can always cut a deep mark, and can have the best authority, the cheapest, namely from its own soul. This is the sum of the profitable uses of individuals or states, and of present action and grandeur, and of the subjects of poets. As if it were necessary to trot back generation after generation to the Eastern records. As if the beauty and sacredness of the demonstrable must fall behind that of the mythical. As if men do not make their mark out of any times. As if the opening of the Western continent by discovery and what has transpired since in North and South America were less than the small theater of the antique or the aimless sleepwalking of the Middle Ages. The pride of the United States leaves the wealth and finesse of the cities, and all returns of commerce and agriculture, and all the magnitude of geography or shows of exterior victory, to to enjoy the breed of full-sized men, or one full-sized man, unconquerable and simple. The American poets are to enclose old and new, for America is the race of races. Of them a bard is to be commensurate with the people. To him the other continents arrive as contributions. He gives them reception for their sake and his own sake. His spirit responds to his country's spirit. He incarnates its geography and natural life and rivers and lakes. Mississippi, with annual freshets and changing shoots. Missouri and Columbia and Ohio and St. Lawrence with the falls and beautiful masculine Hudson do not embouchure where they spend themselves more than they embouchure into him. The blue breadth over the island sea of Virginia and Maryland, and the sea off Massachusetts and Maine, and over Manhattan Bay, and over Champlain and Erie, and over Ontario and Huron and Michigan and Superior, and over the Texan and Mexican and Floridian and Cuban seas, and over the seas off California and Oregon, is not tallied by the blue breadth of the waters below more than the breadth of above and below is tallied by him. When the long Atlantic coast stretches longer, and the Pacific coast stretches longer, he easily stretches with them north or south. He spans between them also from east to west and reflects what is between them. On him rise solid growths that offset the growths of pine and cedar and hemlock and live oak and locust and chestnut and cypress and hickory and lime tree and cottonwood and tulip tree and cactus and wild vine and tamarind and persimmon, and tangles as tangled as any cane brake or swamp, and forests coated with transparent ice and icicles hanging from the boughs and crackling in the wind, and sides and peaks of mountains, and pasturage sweet and free as savanna or upland or prairie, with flights of songs and screams that answer those of the wild pigeon and high-holed and orchard oriole and coot and surf duck and red-shouldered hawk and fish hawk and white ibis and Indian hen and cat owl and water pheasant and quaw bird and and pied sheldrake and blackbird and mockingbird and buzzard and condor and night heron and eagle. To him the hereditary countenance descends both mothers and fathers. To him enter the essences of the real things and past and present events, of the enormous diversity of temperature and agriculture and mines, the tribes of red aborigines, the weather-beaten vessels entering new ports or making landings on rocky coasts, the first settlements north or south, the rapid stature and muscle, the haughty defiance of 76, and the war and peace and formation of the Constitution. The Union always surrounded by blatherers and always calm and impregnable. The perpetual coming of immigrants. The wharf-hemmed cities and superior marine, the unsurveyed interior, the log houses and clearings and wild animals and hunters and trappers, the free commerce, the fisheries and whaling and gold digging, the endless gestation of new states, the convening of Congress every December, the members duly coming up from all climates and the uttermost parts, the noble character of the young mechanics and of all free American workmen and workwomen, and the general ardor and friendliness and enterprise, the perfect equality of the female with the male, the large amativeness, the fluid movement of the population, the factories and mercantile life and labor-saving machinery, the Yankee swap, the New York firemen and the Target excursion, the Southern plantation life, the character of the Northeast and of the Northwest and Southwest, slavery and the tremulous spreading of hands to protect it, and the stern opposition to it which shall never cease till it ceases, or the speaking of tongues and the moving of lips cease. For such the expression of the American poet is to be transcendent and new. It is to be indirect and not direct, or descriptive or epic. Its quality goes through these to much more. Let the age and wars of other nations be chanted, and their eras and characters be illustrated, and that finish the verse. Not so the great psalm of the Republic. Here the theme is creative and has vista. Here comes one among the well-beloved stone cutters and plans with decision and science, and sees the solid and beautiful forms of the future where there are now no solid forms. Of all nations, the United States, with veins full of poetical stuff, most need poets, and will doubtless have the greatest and use them the greatest. Their presidents shall not be their common referees so much as their poets shall. Of all mankind, the great poet is the equable man. Not in him, but off from him, things are grotesque or eccentric, or fail of their sanity. Nothing out of its place is good, and nothing in its place is bad. He bestows on every object or quality its fit proportions, neither more nor less. He is the arbiter of the diverse, and he is the key. He is the equalizer of his age and land. He supplies what wants supplying, and checks what wants checking. If peace is the routine, out of him speaks the spirit of peace, large, rich, thrifty, building vast and populous cities, encouraging agriculture and the arts and commerce, lighting the study of man, the soul, immortality, federal, state, or municipal government, marriage, health, free trade, intertravel by land and sea. Nothing too close, nothing too far off. The stars not too far off. In war, he is the most deadly force of the war. Who recruits him recruits horse and foot. He fetches parks of artillery, the best that engineer ever knew. If the time becomes slothful and heavy, he knows how to arouse it. He can make every word he speaks draw blood. Whatever stagnates is in the flat of custom or obedience or legislation. He never stagnates. Obedience does not master him, he masters it. High up out of reach he stands, turning a concentrated light. He turns the pivot with his finger. He baffles the swiftest runners as he stands, and easily overtakes and envelops them. The time straying toward infidelity and confections and persiflage, he withholds by his steady faith. He spreads out his dishes. He offers the sweet, firm-fibered meat that grows men and women. His brain is the ultimate brain. He is no arguer. He is judgment. He judges not as the judge judges, but as the sun falling around a helpless thing. As he sees the farthest, he has the most faith. His thoughts are the hymns of the praise of things. In the talk on the soul and eternity and God, off of his equal plane, he is silent. He sees eternity less like a play with a prologue and denouement. He sees eternity in men and women. He does not see men and women as dreams or dots. Faith is the antiseptic of the soul. It pervades the common people and preserves them. They never give up believing and expecting and trusting. There is that indescribable freshness and unconsciousness about an illiterate person that humbles and mocks the power of the noblest expressive genius. The poet sees for a certainty how one not a great artist may be just as sacred and perfect as the greatest artist. The power to destroy or remold is freely used by him, but never the power of attack. What is past is past. If he does not expose superior models and prove himself by every step he takes, he is not what is wanted. The presence of the greatest poet conquers, not parleying or struggling, or any prepared attempts. Now he has passed that way, see after him. There is not left any vestige of despair or misanthropy, or cunning or exclusiveness, or the ignominy of nativity or color or delusion of hell, or the necessity of hell. And no man thenceforward shall be degraded for ignorance or weakness or sin. The greatest poet hardly knows pettiness or triviality. If he breathes into anything that was before thought small, it dilates with the grandeur and life of the universe. He is a seer. He is individual. He is complete in himself. The others are as good as he, only he sees it and they do not. He is not one of the chorus. He does not stop for any regulations. He is the president of regulation. What the eyesight does to the rest, he does to the rest. Who knows the curious mystery of the eyesight? The other senses corroborate themselves, but this is removed from any proof but its own, and foreruns the identities of the spiritual world. A single glance of it mocks all the investigations of man, and all the instruments and books of the earth, and all reasoning. What is marvelous? What is unlikely? What is impossible or baseless or vague? After you have once just opened the space of a peach pit and given audience to far and near, and to the sunset, and had all things enter with electric swiftness, softly and duly, without confusion or jostling or jam. The land and sea, the animals, fishes and birds, the sky of heaven and the orbs, the forests, mountains and rivers are not small themes. But folks expect of the poet to indicate more than the beauty and dignity which always attach to dumb, real objects. They expect him to indicate the path between reality and their souls. Men and women perceive the beauty well enough, probably as well as he. The passionate tenacity of hunters, woodmen, early risers, cultivators of gardens and orchards and fields, the love of healthy women for the manly form, seafaring persons, drivers of horses, the passion for light and the open air, all is an old varied sign of the unfailing perception of beauty and of a residence of the poetic in outdoor people. They can never be assisted by poets to perceive. Some may, but they never can. The poetic quality is not marshaled in rhyme or uniformity or abstract addresses to things, nor in melancholy complaints or good precepts, but is the life of these and much else, and is in the soul. The profit of rhyme is that it drops seeds of a sweeter and more luxuriant rhyme, and of uniformity that it conveys itself into its own roots in the ground out of sight. The rhyme and uniformity of perfect poems show the free growth of metrical laws and bud from them as unerringly and loosely as lilacs or roses on a bush, and take shapes as compact as the shapes of chestnuts and oranges and melons and pears, and shed the perfume impalpable to form. The fluency and ornaments of the finest poems or music or orations or recitations are not independent but dependent. All beauty comes from beautiful blood and a beautiful brain. If the greatnesses are in conjunction in a man or woman, it is enough. The fact will prevail through the universe. But the gaggery and guilt of a million years will not prevail. Who troubles himself about his ornaments or fluency is lost. This is what you shall do. Love the earth and sun and the animals. Despise riches. Give alms to everyone that asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy. Devote your income and labor to others. Hate tyrants. Argue not concerning God. Have patience and indulgence toward the people. Take off your hat to nothing known or unknown to any man or number of men. Go freely with powerful, uneducated persons, and with the young and with the mothers of families. Read these leaves in the open air every season of every year of your life. Examine all you have been told at school or church or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem, and have the richest fluency, not only in its words, but in the silent lines of its lips and face, and between the lashes of your eyes, and in every motion and joint of your body. The poet shall not spend his time in unneeded work. He shall know that the ground is always ready, plowed and manured. Others may not know it, but he shall. He shall go directly to the creation. His trust shall master the trust of everything he touches, and shall master all attachment. The known universe has one complete lover, and that is the greatest poet. He consumes an eternal passion, and is indifferent which chance happens and which possible contingency of fortune or misfortune, and persuades daily and hourly his delicious pay. What balks or breaks others is fuel for his burning progress to contact and amorous joy. To contact and amorous joy. Other proportions of the reception of pleasure dwindle to nothing to his proportions. All expected from heaven or from the highest he is rapport with in the sight of the daybreak or a scene of the winter woods, or the presence of children playing, or with his arm round the neck of a man or woman. His love above all love has leisure and expanse. He leaves room ahead of himself. He is no irresolute or suspicious lover. He is sure. He scorns intervals. His experience and the showers and thrills are not for nothing. Nothing can jar him. Suffering and darkness cannot. Death and fear cannot. To him complaint and jealousy and envy are corpses buried and rotten in the earth. He saw them buried. The sea is not surer of the shore or the shore of the sea than he is of the fruition of his love and of all perfection and beauty. The fruition of beauty is no chance of hit or miss. It is inevitable as life. It is exact and plumb as gravitation. From the eyesight proceeds another eyesight, and from the hearing proceeds another hearing, and from the voice proceeds another voice, eternally curious of the harmony of things with men. To these respond perfections not only in the committees that were supposed to stand for the rest, but in the rest themselves just the same. These understand the law of perfection in masses and floods, that its finish is to each for itself and onward from itself, that it is profuse and impartial, that there is not a minute of the light or dark, nor an acre of the earth or sea without it, nor any direction of the sky, nor any trade or employment, nor any turn of events. This is the reason that about the proper expression of beauty there is precision and balance. One part does not need to be thrust above another. The best singer is not the one who has the most lithe and powerful organ. The pleasure of poems is not in them that take the handsomest measure and similes and sound. Without effort and without exposing in the least how it is done, the greatest poet brings the spirit of any or all events and passions and scenes and persons, some more and some less, to bear on your individual character as you hear or read. To do this well is to compete with the laws that pursue and follow time. What is the purpose must surely be there, and the clue of it must be there. And the faintest indication is the indication of the best, and then becomes the clearest indication. Past and present and future are not disjoined, but joined. The greatest poet forms the consistence of what is to be from what has been and is. He drags the dead out of their coffins and stands them again on their feet. He says to the past, "Rise and walk before me that I may realize you." He learns the lesson. He places himself where the future becomes present. The greatest poet does not only dazzle his rays over character and scenes and passions, he finally ascends and finishes all. He exhibits the pinnacles that no man can tell what they are for or what is beyond. He glows a moment on the extremest verge. He is most wonderful in his last half-hidden smile or frown. By that flash of the moment of parting, the one that sees it shall be encouraged or terrified afterwards for many years. The greatest poet does not moralize or make applications of morals. He knows the soul. The soul has that measureless pride which consists in never acknowledging any lessons but its own. But it has sympathy as measureless as its pride, and the one balances the other, and neither can stretch too far while it stretches in company with the other. The inmost secrets of art sleep with the twain. The greatest poet has lain close betwixt both, and they are vital in his style and thoughts. The art of art, the glory of expression, and the sunshine of the light of letters is simplicity. Nothing is better than simplicity. Nothing can make up for excess or for the lack of definiteness. to carry on the heave of impulse and pierce intellectual depths and give all subjects their articulations are powers neither common nor very uncommon. But to speak in literature with the perfect rectitude and insouciance of the movements of animals and the unimpeachableness of the sentiment of trees in the woods and grass by the road's side is the flawless triumph of art. If you have looked on him who has achieved it, you have looked on one of the masters of the artists of all nations and times. You shall not contemplate the flight of the gray gull over the bay, or the mettlesome action of the blood horse, or the tall leaning of sunflowers on their stalk, or the appearance of the sun journeying through heaven, or the appearance of the moon afterward, with any more satisfaction than you shall contemplate him. The greatest poet has less a marked style, and is more the channel of thoughts and things without increase or diminution, and is the free channel of himself. He swears to his art, I will not be meddlesome, I will not have in my writing any elegance or effect or originality to hang in the way between me and the rest like curtains. I will have nothing hang in the way, not the richest curtains. What I tell for precisely what it is. Let who may exalt or startle or fascinate or soothe. I will have purposes as health or heat or snow has, and be as regardless of observation. What I experience or portray shall go from my composition without a shred of my composition. You shall stand by my side and look in the mirror with me. The old red blood and stainless gentility of great poets will be proved by their unconstraint. A heroic person walks at his ease through and out of that custom or precedent or authority that suits him not. Of the traits of the brotherhood of writers, savants, musicians, inventors, and artists, nothing is finer than silent defiance advancing from new free forms. In the need of poems, philosophy, politics, mechanism, science, behavior, the craft of art, an appropriate native grand opera, shipcraft, or any craft, he is greatest forever and forever who contributes the greatest original practical example. The cleanest expression is that which finds no sphere worthy of itself and makes one. The messages of great poets to each man and woman are, come to us on equal terms. Only then can you understand us. We are no better than you. What we enclose, you enclose. What we enjoy, you may enjoy. Did you suppose there could be only one supreme? We affirm there can be unnumbered supremes, and that one does not countervail another any more than one eyesight countervails another, and that men can be good or grand only of the consciousness of their supremacy within them. What do you think is the grandeur of storms and dismemberments and the deadliest battles and wrecks and the wildest fury of the elements and the power of the sea and the motion of nature and of the throes of human desires and dignity and hate and love? It is that something in the soul which says, rage on, whirl on. I tread master here and everywhere, master of the spasms of the sky and of the shatter of the sea, master of nature and passion and death, and of all terror and all pain. The American bards shall be marked for generosity and affection and for encouraging competitors. They shall be cosmos, without monopoly or secrecy, glad to pass anything to any one, hungry for equals night and day. They shall not be careful of riches or privilege, riches and privilege. They shall be riches and privilege. They shall perceive who the most affluent man is. The most affluent man is he that confronts all the shows he sees by equivalence out of the stronger wealth of himself. The American bard shall delineate no class of persons, nor one or two out of the strata of interests, nor love most, nor truth most, nor the soul most, nor the body most, and not be for the eastern states more than the western, or the northern states more than the southern. Exact science and its practical movements are no checks on the greatest poet, but always his encouragement and support. The outset and remembrance are there. There the arms that lifted him first and brace him best. There he returns after all his goings and comings. The sailor and traveler, the anatomist, chemist, astronomer, geologist, phrenologist, spiritualist, mathematician, historian, and lexicographer are not poets, but they are the lawgivers of poets, and their construction underlies the structure of every perfect poem. No matter what rises or is uttered, they sent the seed of the conception of it. Of them and by them stand the visible proofs of souls. Always of their father stuff must be begotten the sinewy races of bards. If there shall be love and content between the Father and the Son, and if the greatness of the Son is the exuding of the greatness of the Father, there shall be love between the poet and the man of demonstrable science. In the beauty of poems are the tuft and final applause of science. Great is the faith of the flush of knowledge and of the investigation of the depths and qualities of things. Cleaving and circling here swells the soul of the poet, yet is president of itself always. The depths are fathomless and therefore calm. The innocence and nakedness are resumed. They are neither modest nor immodest. The whole theory of the special and supernatural and all that was twined with it or educed out of it departs as a dream. What has ever happened, what happens, and whatever may happen or shall happen, the vital laws enclose all. They are sufficient for any case and for all cases, none to be hurried or retarded. Any miracle of affairs or persons inadmissible in the vast, clear scheme, where every motion and every spear of grass and the frames and spirits of men and women and all that concerns them are unspeakably perfect miracles, referring to all, and each distinct and in its place. It is also not consistent with the reality of the soul to admit that there is anything in the known universe more divine than men and women. Men and women and the earth and all upon it are simply to be taken as they are, and the investigation of their past and present and future shall be unintermitted and shall be done with perfect candor. Upon this basis, philosophy speculates ever, looking toward the poet, ever regarding the eternal tendencies of all toward happiness, never inconsistent with what is clear to the senses and to the soul. For the eternal tendencies of all toward happiness make the only point of sane philosophy. Whatever comprehends less than that, whatever is less than the laws of light and of astronomical motion, or less than the laws that follow the thief, the liar, the glutton, and the drunkard through this life and doubtless afterward, or less than vast stretches of time, or the slow formation of density, or the patient upheaving of strata, is of no account. Whatever would put God in a poem or system of philosophy as contending against some being or influence is also of no account. Sanity and ensemble characterize the great master. Spoilt in one principle, all is spoilt. The great master has nothing to do with miracles. He sees health for himself in being one of the mass. He sees the hiatus in singular eminence. To the perfect shape comes common ground. To be under the general law is great, for that is to correspond with it. The master knows that he is unspeakably great, and that all are unspeakably great, that nothing, for instance, is greater than to conceive children and bring them up well, that to be just, that to be is just as great as to perceive or tell. In the make of the great masters, the idea of political liberty is indispensable. Liberty takes the adherence of heroes wherever men and women exist, but never takes any adherence or welcome from the rest more than from poets. They are the voice and exposition of liberty. They out of ages are worthy the grand idea. To them it is confided, and they must sustain it. Nothing has precedence of it, and nothing can warp or degrade it. The attitude of great poets is to cheer up slaves and horrify despots. The turn of their necks, the sound of their feet, the motions of their wrists are full of hazard to the one and hope to the other. Come nigh them a while, and though they neither speak or advise, you shall learn the faithful American lesson. Liberty is poorly served by men whose good intent is quelled from one failure or two failures or any number of failures, or from the casual indifference and ingratitude of the people, or from the sharp show of the tushes of power, or the bringing to bear soldiers and cannon, or any penal statutes. Liberty relies upon itself, invites no one, promises nothing, sits in calmness and light, is positive and composed, and knows no discouragement. The battle rages with many a loud alarm and frequent advance and retreat. The enemy triumphs. The prison, the handcuffs, the iron necklace and anklet, the scaffold, garrote, and lead balls do their work. The cause is asleep. The strong throats are choked with their own blood. The young men drop their eyelashes toward the ground when they pass each other. And is liberty gone out of that place? No, never. When liberty goes, it is not the first to go, nor the second or third to go. It waits for all the rest to go. It is the last. When the memories of the old martyrs are faded utterly away, when the large names of patriots are laughed at in the public halls from the lips of the orators, when the boys are no more christened after the same, but christened after tyrants and traitors instead, when the laws of the free are grudgingly permitted, and laws for informers and blood money are sweet to the taste of the people, when I and you walk abroad upon the earth, stung with compassion at the sight of numberless brothers answering our equal friendship and calling no man master, and when we are elated with noble joy at the sight of slaves, when the soul retires in the cool communion of the night and surveys its experience and has much ecstasy over the word and deed that put back a helpless, innocent person into the gripe of the gripers or into any cruel inferiority, when those in all parts of these states who could easier realize the true American character but do not yet, when the swarms of cringers, suckers, dough faces, lice of politics, planners of sly involutions for their own preferment to city offices or state legislatures or the judiciary or Congress or the presidency, obtain a response of love and natural deference from the people, whether they get the offices or no, when it is better to be a bound booby and rogue in office at a high salary than the poorest free mechanic or farmer with his hat unmoved from his head and firm eyes and a candid and generous heart, and when servility by town or state or the federal government or any oppression on a large scale or small scale can be tried on without its own punishment following duly after in exact proportion against the smallest chance of escape, or rather when all life and all the souls of men and women are discharged from any part of the earth, then only shall the instinct of liberty be discharged from that part of the earth. As the attributes of the poets of the cosmos concenter in the real body and soul and in the pleasure of things they possess, they possess the superiority of genuineness over all fiction and romance. As they emit themselves, facts are showered over with light. The daylight is lit with more volatile light. Also, the deep between the setting and rising sun goes deeper many-fold. Each precise object or condition or combination or process exhibits a beauty. The multiplication table, its. Old age, its. The carpenter's trade, its. The grand opera, its. The huge-hulled, clean-shaped New York clipper at sea under steam or full sail gleams with unmatched beauty. The American circles and large harmonies of government gleam with theirs, and the commonest definite intentions and actions with theirs. The poets of the cosmos advance through all interpositions and coverings and turmoils and stratagems to first principles. They are of use. They dissolve poverty from its need and riches from its conceit. You large proprietor, they say, shall not realize or perceive more than any one else. The owner of the library is not he who holds a legal title to it, having bought and paid for it. Any one and every one is owner of the liberty, is owner of the library who can read the same through all the varieties of tongues and subjects and styles, and in whom they enter with ease and take residence and force toward paternity and maternity, and make supple and powerful and rich and large. These American states, strong and healthy and accomplished, shall receive no pleasure from violations of natural models and must not permit them. In paintings or moldings or carvings in mineral or wood, or in the illustrations of books or newspapers, or in any comic or tragic prints, or in the patterns of woven stuffs, or anything to beautify rooms or furniture or costumes, or to put upon cornices or monuments, or on the prows of or sterns of ships, or to put anywhere before the human eye, indoors or out, that which distorts honest shapes or which creates unearthly beings or places or contingencies is a nuisance and revolt. Of the human form especially, it is so great it must never be made ridiculous. Of ornaments to a work, nothing outre can be allowed. But those ornaments can be allowed that conform to the perfect facts of the open air and that flow out of the nature of the work and come irrepressibly from it and are necessary to the completion of the work. Most works are beautiful without ornament. Exaggerations will be revenged in human physiology. Clean and vigorous children are jetted and conceived only in those communities where the models of natural forms are public every day. Great genius and the people of these states must never be demeaned to romances. As soon as histories are properly told, there is no more need of romances. The great poets are also to be known by the absence in them of tricks and by the justification of perfect personal candor. Then folks echo a new cheap joy and a divine voice leaping from their brains. How beautiful is candor! All faults may be forgiven of him who has perfect candor. Henceforth let no man of us lie, for we have seen that openness wins the inner and outer world, and that there is no single exception, and that never since our earth gathered itself in a mass have deceit or subterfuge or prevarication attracted its smallest particle or the faintest tinge of a shade, and that through the enveloping wealth and rank of a state or the whole republic of states, a sneak or sly person shall be discovered and despised, and that the soul has never once been fooled and never can be fooled. And thrift without the loving nod of the soul is only a fetid puff, and there never grew up in any of the continents of the globe, nor upon any planet or satellite or star, nor upon the asteroids, nor in any part of ethereal space, nor in the midst of destiny, nor under the fluid wet of the sea, nor in that condition which precedes the birth of babes, nor at any time during the changes of life, nor in that condition that follows what we term death, nor in any stretch of abeyance or action afterward of vitality, nor in any process of formation or reformation anywhere, a being whose instinct hated the truth. Extreme caution or prudence, the soundest organic health, large hope and comparison and fondness for women and children, large alimentiveness and destructiveness and causality, with a perfect sense of the oneness of nature and the propriety of the same spirit applied to human affairs. These are called up of the float of the brain of the world to be parts of the greatest poet from his birth out of his mother's womb, and from her birth out of her mother's. Caution seldom goes far enough. It has been thought that the prudent citizen was the citizen who applied himself to solid gains and did well for himself and his family and completed a lawful life without debt or crime. The greatest poet sees and admits these economies as he sees the economies of food and sleep, but has higher notions of prudence than to think he gives much when he gives a few slight attentions at the latch of the gate. The premises of the prudence of life are not the hospitality of it, or the ripeness and harvest of it. Beyond the independence of a little sum laid aside for burial money, and of a few clapboards around and shingles overhead, on a lot of American soil owned, and the easy dollars that supply the year's plain clothing and meals, the melancholy prudence of the abandonment of such a great being as a man is to the toss and pallor of years of money-making with all their scorching days and icy nights, and all their stifling deceits and underhanded dodgings, or infinitesimals of parlors or shameless stuffing while others starve, and all the loss of the bloom and odor of the earth, and of the flowers and atmosphere, and of the sea, and of the true taste of the women and men you pass or have to do with in youth or middle age, and the issuing sickness and desperate revolt at the close of a life without elevation or naivete, and the ghastly chatter of a death without serenity or majesty, is the great fraud upon modern civilization and forethought blotching the surface and system which civilization undeniably drafts, and moistening with tears the immense features it spreads, and spreads with such velocity before the reached kisses of the soul. Still the right explanation remains to be made without prudence. The prudence of the mere wealth and respectability of the most esteemed life appears too faint for the eye to observe at all, when little and large alike drop quietly aside at the thought of the prudence suitable for immortality. What is wisdom that fills the thinness of a year, or 70 or 80 years, to wisdom spaced out by ages and coming back at a certain time with strong reinforcements and rich presents and the clear faces of wedding guests as far as you can look in every direction, running gaily toward you? Only the soul is of itself. All else has reference to what ensues. All that a person does or thinks is of consequence. Not a move can a man or a woman make that affects him or her in a day or a month or any part of the direct lifetime or the hour of death, but the same affects him or her onward afterward through the indirect lifetime. The indirect is always as great and real as the direct. The spirit receives from the body just as much as it gives to the body. Not one name of word or deed, not of venereal sores or discolorations, not the privacy of the onanist, not of the putrid veins of gluttons or rum drinkers, not peculation or cunning or betrayal or murder, no serpentine poison of those that seduce women, not the foolish yielding of women, not prostitution, not of any depravity of young men, not of the attainment of gain by discreditable means, not of any nastiness of appetite, not any harshness of officers to men or judges to prisoners, or fathers to sons, or sons to fathers, or husbands to wives, or bosses to their boys, not of greedy looks or malignant wishes, nor any of the wiles practiced by people upon themselves. Ever is, or ever can be, stamped on the program, but it is duly realized and returned, and that returned in further performances, and they returned again. Nor can the push of charity or personal force ever be anything else than the profoundest reason, whether it brings arguments to hand or no. No specification is necessary. To add or subtract or divide is in vain. Little or big, learned or unlearned, white or black, legal or illegal, sick or well, from the first inspiration down the windpipe to the last expiration out of it, all that a male or female does that is vigorous and benevolent and clean is so much sure profit to him or her in the unshakable order of the universe and through the whole scope of it forever. If the savage or felon is wise, it is well. If the greatest poet or savant is wise, it is simply the same. If the president or chief justice is wise, it is the same. If the young mechanic or farmer is wise, it is no more or less. If the prostitute is wise, it is no more nor less. The interest will come round. All will come round. All the best actions of war and peace, all help given to relatives and strangers and the poor and old and sorrowful, and young children and widows and the sick, and to all shunned persons, all furtherance of fugitives, and of the escape of slaves, all the self-denial that stood steady and aloof on wrecks, and saw others take the seats of the boats, all offering of substance or life for the good old cause, or for a friend's sake or opinion's sake, all pains of enthusiasts scoffed at by their neighbors, all the vast sweet love and precious suffering of mothers, all honest men baffled in strifes recorded or unrecorded, all the grandeur and good of the few ancient nations whose fragments of annals we inherit, and all the good of the hundreds of far mightier and more ancient nations unknown to us by name or date or location, all that was ever manfully begun, whether it succeeded or not, all that has at any time been well suggested out of the divine heart of man, or by the divinity of his mouth, or by the shaping of his great hands, and all that is well thought or done this day on any part of the surface of the globe, or on any of the wandering stars or fixed stars, by those here as we are here, by those there as we are here, or that is henceforth to be well thought or done by you, whoever you are, or by any one, these singly and wholly inured at their time and inure now and will inure always to the identities from which they sprung or shall spring. Did you guess any of them lived only its moment? The world does not so exist. No parts palpable or impalpable so exist. No result exists now without being from its long antecedent result, and that from its antecedent, and so backward without the farthest mentionable spot coming a bit nearer the beginning than any other spot. Whatever satisfies the soul is truth. The prudence of the greatest poet answers at last the craving and glut of the soul, is not contemptuous of less ways of prudence if they conform to its ways, puts off nothing, permits no let-up for its own case or any case, has no particular Sabbath or judgment day, divides not the living from the dead or the righteous from the unrighteous, is satisfied with the present, matches every thought or act by its correlative, knows no possible forgiveness or deputed atonement, knows that the young man who composedly periled his life and lost it has done exceeding well for himself, while the man who has not periled his life and retains it to old age and in riches and ease has perhaps achieved nothing for himself worth mentioning, and that only that person has no great prudence to learn who has learnt, and that only that person has no great prudence to learn who has learnt to prefer real long-lived things, and favors body and soul the same, and perceives the indirect assuredly following the direct, and what evil or good he does leaping onward and waiting to meet him again, and who in his spirit, in any emergency, whatever neither hurries or avoids death. The direct trial of him who would be the greatest poet is today, if he does not flood himself with the immediate age as with vast oceanic tides, and if he does not attract his own land, body, and soul to himself and hang on its neck with incomparable love and plunge his Semitic muscle into its merits and demerits, and if he be not himself the age transfigured, and if to him is not opened the eternity which gives similitude to all periods and locations and processes and animate and inanimate forms, and which is the bond of time, and rises up from its inconceivable vagueness and infiniteness in the swimming shape of today, and is held by the ductile anchors of life, and makes the present spot the passage from what was to what shall be, and commits itself to the representation of this wave of an hour, and this one of the 60 beautiful children of the wave. Let him merge in the general run and wait his development. Still the final test of poems or any character or work remains. The prescient poet projects himself centuries ahead and judges performer or performance after the changes of time. Does it live through them? Does it still hold on untired? Will the same style and the direction of genius to similar points be satisfactory now? Has no new discovery in science or arrival at superior planes of thought and judgment and behavior fixed him or his so that either can be looked down upon? Have the marches of tens and hundreds and thousands of years made willing detours to the right hand and the left hand for his sake? Is he beloved long and long after he is buried? Does the young man think often of him, and the young woman think often of him, and do the middle-aged and the old think of him? A great poem is for ages and ages in common, and for all degrees and complexions and all departments and sects, and for a woman as much as a man, and a man as much as a woman. A great poem is no finish to a man or woman, but rather a beginning. Has anyone fancied he could sit at last under some due authority and rest satisfied with explanations and realize and be content and full? To no such terminus does the greatest poet bring. He brings neither cessation or sheltered fatness and ease. The touch of him tells in action. Whom he takes with firm, sure grasp into live regions previously unattained. Thenceforward is no rest. They see the space and ineffable sheen that turn the old spots and lights into dead vacuums. The companion of him beholds the birth and progress of stars and learns one of the meanings. Now there shall be a man cohered out of tumult and chaos. The elder encourages the younger and shows him how. They two shall launch off fearlessly together till the new world fits an orbit for itself and looks unabashed on the lesser orbits of the stars and sweeps through the ceaseless rings and shall never be quiet again. There will soon be no more priests. Their work is done. They may wait a while, perhaps a generation or two, dropping off by degrees. A superior breed shall take their place. The gangs of cosmos and prophets en masse shall take their place. A new order shall arise, and they shall be the priests of man, and every man shall be his own priest. The churches built under their umbrage shall be the churches of men and women. Through the divinity of themselves shall the cosmos and the new breed of poets be interpreters of men and women and of all events and things. They shall find their inspiration in real objects today, symptoms of the past and future. They shall not deign to defend immortality or God or the perfection of things or liberty or the exquisite beauty and reality of the soul. They shall arise in America and be responded to from the remainder of the earth. The English language befriends the grand American expression. It is brawny enough and limber and full enough. On the tough stock of a race who through all change of circumstance was never without the idea of political liberty, which is the animus of all liberty, it has attracted the terms of daintier and gayer and subtler and more elegant tongues. It is the powerful language of resistance. It is the dialect of common sense. It is the speech of the proud and melancholy races and of all who aspire. It is the chosen tongue to express growth, faith, self-esteem, freedom, justice, equality, friendliness, amplitude, prudence, decision, and courage. It is the medium that shall well nigh express the inexpressible. No great literature, nor any like style of behavior or oratory, or social intercourse, or household arrangements, or public institutions, or the treatment by bosses of employed people, nor executive detail or detail of the army or navy, nor spirit of legislation or courts or police or tuition or architecture or songs or amusements or the costumes of young men can long elude the jealous and passionate instinct of American standards. Whether or no the sign appears from the mouths of the people, it throbs a live interrogation in every free man and free man's and free woman's heart after that which passes by or this built to remain. Is it uniform with my country? Are its disposals without ignominious distinctions? Is it for the ever-growing communes of brothers and lovers, large, well-united, proud beyond the old models, generous beyond all models? Is it something grown fresh out of the fields or drawn from the sea for use to me today here? I know that what answers for me an American must answer for any individual or nation that serves for a part of my materials. Does this answer? Or is it without reference to universal needs, or sprung of the needs of the less developed society of special ranks, or old needs of pleasure overlaid by modern science and forms? Does this acknowledge liberty with audible and absolute acknowledgement and set slavery at naught for life and death? Will it help breed one good-shaped and well-hung man, and a woman to be his perfect and independent mate? Does it improve manners? Is it for the nursing of the young of the Republic? Does it solve readily with the sweet milk of the nipples of the breasts of the mother of many children? Has it, too, the old, ever-fresh forbearance and impartiality? Does it look with the same love on the last born, and on those hardening toward stature, and on the errant, and on those who disdain all strength of assault outside of their own? The poems distilled from other poems will probably pass away. The coward will surely pass away. The expectation of the vital and great can only be satisfied by the demeanor of the vital and great. The swarms of the polished deprecating and reflectors and the polite float off and leave no remembrance. America prepares with composure and goodwill for the visitors that have sent word. It is not intellect that is to be their warrant and welcome. The talented, the artist, the ingenious, the editor, the statesman, the erudite, they are not unappreciated. They fall in their place and do their work. The soul of the nation also does its work. No disguise can conceal from it. No disguise can conceal from it. It rejects none. It permits all. Only toward as good as itself and toward the like of itself will it advance halfway. An individual is as superb as a nation when he has the qualities which make a superb nation. The soul of the largest and wealthiest and proudest nation may well go halfway to meet that of its poets. The signs are effectual. There is no fear of mistake. If the one is true, the other is true. The proof of a poet is that his country absorbs him as affectionately as he has absorbed it. I should plug in my phone. Ooh. Yes, I was sitting Half-Lotus that whole time. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I've got to plug it in because I feel like it might die any second. I think it was only on like 56% battery, so I've got to plug it in right now. And then I say a couple of little things. Oh my goodness, if you could see my setup here, you'd probably laugh. Because I've like got this like sitting on my Mega Boom on a little tripod, and if I like bumped it, it would fall right off, but wow. Wow, I've never read that out loud before. That was really awesome. And there were fireworks in the middle of it. Yeah, man, that's crazy. That's really crazy. That took me like over an hour, dude. That took me a long time to read that. That was like 30 pages. Wow, okay. I'm really glad I did that, and I definitely mispronounced one or two things, and I misspoke a couple of times, but I was really grateful that at the end he said, at the end there is no fear of mistake, and there isn't. You know, I saw someone perform last Saturday, and it was a young woman, and she was singing, and she had, her throat was dry, and I could tell it was bothering her. And she asked someone in the audience to give her water, and then afterwards I was speaking with the host of the show. It's a regular thing I attend, you know, part of the poetry community, and I remember being there, and I was saying something to, I remembered something I was supposed to do. But I was there with the host, and she said something like, "Oh, I messed up a few times, but it was okay." And I looked right at her. I said, "No, you didn't. It went exactly as it was supposed to go." Honestly, in the middle of that, I kind of like, I lost focus for a moment, because I thought I would probably restart this and like practice it a little more before doing it. But then the fireworks happened. I remembered the fireworks had happened, and I'd like to go back. I am going to go back and figure out what line that was. That was pretty awesome. I'm not going to do it here on camera because I need to go, and like, this is ridiculously long, and it's almost midnight in California, so I need to finish. But yeah, that was really cool. That was really, really cool. That took some energy to do that, and yeah. But I'm really glad that I did that. I enjoyed that very much, and I don't know if anybody will ever watch that, but it's okay. I wonder how many people have read that out loud. You know, you think about it, like, I bet you he would have been happy to know that I did that, that I gave that part of myself, like, gave that energy and this evening to that. It's important. You see what we came from. Can you imagine, on his best day in his entire life, Donald Trump cannot achieve, or could not achieve, bless his heart, bless his withered black heart, that beastly man could never, on his best day of his life, achieve anything like that. I mean, he I feel so bad for him. I think he's one of the most miserable people who's ever lived, really. I mean, he is just, I feel really bad for the guy, because he's just, he's a really lost person. He's become such a beast. And I think it's very interesting. This really spoke to me. I'll revisit this one little part here for you, because it's hard. It's a lot, it's a lot to listen to. And I always feel like I wish I had a bigger vocabulary. And I know, having studied classic literature, I'm not one to, I don't like feeling like I toot my own horn. It's not how I roll, but I have a larger than average vocabulary, having studied a lot of classical literature. But Walt Whitman's vocabulary is greater than mine. You see, it was really popular. Like, it was popular back then. It was popular to be learned, and it was popular to be to read, and they didn't have all these distractions and these modern drugs that we have now. But this one thing really spoke to me, because this is, Donald Trump, you're expletive deleted, fired. You are so fired. We, the people of the United States of America, we are firing you. Like, you are getting fired. You're the first president that's going to get fired, and I think you're going to have to be forcefully removed from office. I don't want that, but he will not go. At least Nixon had the good sense to realize when he was beat. This guy, look, ultimately I win, okay? Like, that's him in a nutshell. He is delusional. I wonder, I was saying today to someone at work, I wonder if, not not where others, maybe Trump supporters, could be there and hear me and attack me again, like happened yesterday. But I was saying, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I wonder if they told him. I wonder if anybody's had the courage to tell him that they edited him out of the World Cup championship photos. Probably not, guys. That's how crazy he is. And the people around him know if we tell him this, we'll probably get fired, because he's not going to want to hear that. He's so just like that's. He's gone. He's really gone. And this is. The prudence of the greatest poet answers at last the craving and glut of the soul, is not contemptuous of less ways of prudence if they conform to its ways, put off nothing, permits no let up for its own case or any case, has no particular Sabbath or judgment day. That was funny because this is the Sabbath and I mentioned it. Divides not the living from the dead or the righteous from the unrighteous, is satisfied with the present, matches every thought or act by its correlative, knows no possible forgiveness or deputed. Deputed? These are a few things I didn't actually, we don't use words like that anymore. Like it's obviously the word deputy, deputed atonement, deputed, or maybe it's deputed. I need to do some research before I perform this again, maybe. Deputed atonement, knows that the young man who composedly, this is it. So what he's saying, it's a very, very long sentence. The prudence of the greatest poet answers at last. So he's talking about the prudence of the greatest poet. That's the subject. The prudence of the greatest poet knows that the young man who composedly periled his life and lost it has done exceeding well for himself, while the man who has not periled his life, bone spurs, and retains it to old age in riches and ease, has perhaps achieved nothing for himself worth mentioning. And that only that person has no great prudence to learn, who has learnt to prefer real long-lived things, and favors body and soul the same, and perceives the indirect assuredly following the direct. And what evil or good he does, leaping onward and waiting to meet him again, and who in his spirit in any emergency, whatever neither hurries or avoids. That's tough to understand that. But what he's saying, it's just old syntax, guys. What he's saying is, and that only that person has no great prudence to learn. He's saying, only someone who has done all these things he then lists has figured it all out and doesn't have anything to learn. Who in his spirit in any emergency whatever neither hurries nor or avoids death. So he's talking about courage under fire. Only those of us who can stand in the blaze and the blast of the most hellish moments has no great prudence to learn. That's what he's saying with that. And he's denouncing people who have not risked much and, retains it to old age in riches and ease, he gives them benefit of the doubt, perhaps achieved nothing for himself worth mentioning. I mean, he's not being arrogant with this. It's why it's such a great work of fiction and such a great and powerful poem. And I didn't realize writing this how much this is about poets. It's interesting. I'm a poet. So it spoke to me a lot. But he's not. He's aware of himself. I can tell from reading this that it's his perspective. It's his opinion. It's not some like absolute situation. etched in stone brought down off Mount Sinai or anything like that, you know. But that really spoke to me. It's like, and that whole part about the coward will certainly pass away. You know, that ties into, I read that a few days ago, that speech from Theodore Roosevelt from 1910, and Theodore Roosevelt echoed this. One of our great presidents echoed this. It's risk versus reward, guys. Like, it's time to stand up, you know, and more of us are, and it's going to be all right. It really is. I wish you all a wonderful rest. I'm going to go now because I need to post this. But, yeah. Oh my goodness, hour 45. Oh, blessings. Maybe, as someone said to me the other day, may blessings rain down upon you. As someone asked me, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, well, I've got to file a lawsuit, small claims, where they're like, oh, wow. And I've got to answer a motion response and blah, 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 and this and this and this. And you want the receipt? And I was like, yeah, I was buying non-alcoholic beers. I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm gonna put this in the damages calculation. This woman behind me, what else is going to go in your damage calculation? I was like, blah, 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 blah. She's like, oh man, I'm sorry that all happened to you. May blessings rain down upon you. May blessings rain down upon you if you watched all of this. I do this also for posterity because you never know. You know, bolt of lightning. You get hit by a bus. Hope not. Knock on wood. Knock on begonia. Peace and love. See you tomorrow for day 22. Yeah, good night.